We are starting today first with orientation and introduction. This is the very attitude which gets set. Many people ask, thanks. Many people ask, what is Vedanta? Some say it is too theoretical. Some say, what is there to practice? Swami Dayananda Saraswati here has put it in very concise words. And when we absorb these words, we set the attitude towards Vedantic knowledge. What is it? Vedanta is neither theory nor practice. It is a means to know yourself. It is a means it is an equipment. It is a praman. Just as if your eyesight is weak, spectacles are your means to know, to see clearly. In the same way, Vedanta is neither just theoretical, nor is it to be approached with a mindset that it is something to be only practiced, but the mindset is, it is an equipment, it is a praman. What does it help? It helps to know yourself. The very, very fundamental, because when you know yourself, then naturally everything is simpler and easier. The whole world is manageable when you know yourself better. And not just relatively know yourself, but know yourself in your swarupam, in your nature, who you are in essence. So from the point of seeing who I think I am to the point of seeing who I am essentially, Vedanta is a praman for that, and it is knowledge. It's knowledge based. So before we continue further, we will do these invocations every time. Today I will just do them, and later we'll see how we go ahead with them. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryante Guru Paramparam. Sadashiva Samarambham, beginning with Sadashiva. Sadashiva is a very specific form of Shiva. He is a very personification in a way, a very representative of one who is bestower of grace, anugraha, and also of laya, as in destruction. So out of all the forms of Shiva, he is the 5-headed and 10 hands. He represents the very epitome of anugraha, grace upon oneself. And the destructive aspect is that which means destruction of your ignorance, self-ignorance. So here what we are going to be initiating ourselves in the study is actually handed down in a parampara, Guru Shishya Parampara. And where does it start from? They say Sadashiva Samarambham. From the very beginning, Sadashiva is the one who we invoke, is the Adi Guru in the context of Vedantic, Advaitic vision. Shankaracharya Madhyamam. From Adi Guru, Sadashiva, in the middle stands Adi Shankaracharya, because of whom the knowledge of Vedanta, how is it to be discovered, how is it to be understood, has remained clear till today because he wrote bhashyams so clearly. It has still held itself in society, and everybody who approaches it can see that there is a lot of inner clarity because of Shankara's bhashyams, which unfold the Vedantic vision. So, Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmat Acharya Paryantam, up to the point of my immediate Acharya, Vande Guru Parampara. I first do my salutations, my offerings, my Vandanam, Vande, offer my Namaskar to this lineage of Guru Shishya Parampara, which is absolutely essential to see the correct vision of Vedanta. Another invocation here we will be doing because we are studying the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, as we are going to continue just now, is a part of Mahabharata, and Mahabharata was written by Vyasa. So obviously there is an invocation that must present itself as Namaskaram to Vyasa also. So Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. Again and again, Punah Punaha. Again and again my salutations. To whom? To the one who is the abode of Alayam, who is the abode of Karuna. He is the abode of compassion. Out of which, what did he do? Shruti, Smriti, Purananam Alayam. He is also the abode of everything that is there in the Shrutis, that means the Upanishads, the Smritis, the Smriti Granthas, Itihasas, Mahabharatas, Purananam, and also Puranas. To him, Badarayanam, another name of Vyasa, Namami. Also to Bhagavad Pada Shankaram. He is also the one who is in the form of compassion and holds the knowledge of the Shrutis, Smritis and Puranas together and presents it to the listener, to the student, to him who is the Loka Shankaram. Here Shankaram, Loka Shankaram means who's auspicious for the Loka, who's beneficial to the world. Such a Shankaram, who is a Shankaracharyam, and Badarayanam, who is Keshavam, in the form of Keshav, who is Sutra. Badarayanam is Sutrakrita. Sutra means Brahma Sutras he has written. Bhashya Kritau, Shankara has written Bhashyams. Therefore, to these two Acharyas, Gurus, Vande, Bhagavantau, Punah Punaha. We'll quickly chant this. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. There is another third invocation we'll be doing. This is a standard invocation. A lot of us may have heard this even in yajnas. The priests do this very often. This invocation is done by the immediate acharya and the shishya, the student and the teacher. They both do this together before the start of the study. And it's from an Upanishad also. Sahana vavatu, sahanau punaktu, sahaviryam karvavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu, mavit vishavahai, om shanti shanti shanti. Saha means together, both of us. May whatever we are now going to start the transaction on, this very divine, auspicious study, which is actually a very, the right word would be, it brings grace in one's life. Grace is a very general term, but it brings auspiciousness in every form in one's life. So before we begin such a subtle, beautiful transaction, beautiful why? Because it's joyful, the study is joyful, and the result that it gives, the phalam that it brings in terms of, as we will see just now, mental peace, happiness, that of course is what we all aspire for. That is beautiful. So both the teacher and the student are now invoking the grace of all higher shantis. Here means Adi-Daivik, Adi-Bhautik and Adhyatmik, all the forces that operate in the world. When a student is sincere and when he wants to study, he needs a teacher who's supposed to be clear and knows how to teach. Shastra says this. And a teacher who's keen to teach needs a student who's going to be absorbing the knowledge. For both of them, this transaction is very important. So both of them are praying earnestly that may all the forces of creation remain with us, avatu, protect us both, because temporarily we are withholding our interest in the world and we are directing it to something which is alaukik, which is of the nature of not terrestrial. It doesn't mean it is transcendental and it is unknown, but it is not something that is in vyavharik form. So we are engaging into something which is requiring a subtlety in our own self, of our own being. May we remain protected while we engage in this. Tahanau bhunaktu, may the forces, may that Bhagwan, may that Isha, whoever you believe, may whatever you, it's just a desire to as I enjoy teaching, I'm enthusiastic about teaching. The student is energized by the learning, is beginning to see the clarity of how it is in life, how it applies in life, how things are operating. So there is a joy that comes from understanding things, from learning things, from the purity of the subject itself. There is another kind of a calm and a joy that comes. So may we both enjoy. May this knowledge benefit us both. Sahaviryam karvavahi. May we both have the viryam, the capacity to study and understand the subtle vision of the scriptures. May we both exert together. The teacher says, I will exert to present the point to the best, and the student says, I exert to understand it to the best. So both of us, may we have the strength to study the Shastram and understand it till the point we have absorbed it. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. May our study make us brilliant, means may it make us, it remove the doubts from us, may it shine forth in our understanding and in our actions, in our attitudes, may it stream forward. Mavit vishavahai. May we not hate or argue with each other, because in any study, obviously, there's going to be doubts and there's going to be the mode of removal of the doubts. And obviously, the Shastra is understanding human nature. There will be clashes sometimes in the parampara also, they say, and then there can be some sort of an ill feeling. May there be no such ill feelings, means a divine pursuit. May we continue to have the expression of the joy of the transaction without any negativity arising in it. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. These three words are going to be important in the context today. First Shanti is Adi Daivik, second Shanti is Adi Bhautik, and third Shanti is Adhyatmik. Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautik, Adi Adhyatmik. The three Shantis is what we are going to talk a little, of course, later. Now, first and foremost is there are going to be some very general things that people understand about Bhagavad Gita. Something critical or floating or just doubts that people have. We'll just address a few of them so that our understanding is clear of what we are going to start engaging ourselves in. Because, as I said, 700 verses to complete would mean at least 2 to 3 years, and that would be a lot of commitment on a person's part to be able to conclude the study. So our conviction beforehand should be sure of what we are engaging in. So what is some of the normal, क्या कहते हैं, normal normal things about Bhagavad Gita that go on, especially for people who are cynical, who are critical about it. So one of the things that is very, very common is, how can Bhagavad Gita be told on a battleground? How is it possible that there were two armies standing across each other? And then, right in the midst of that, because the picture is so famous, that right in the center of the two armies, and it's a very vivid picture the artists have made, and there is this Rath there in the center, and Krishna is there as a Sarthi, and Arjuna is there, and this Vartalap, this conversation is going on between them in the middle of the background, in the middle of the battleground. So people say this is not possible. ऐसा हो नहीं सकता है. It's not. It hasn't happened. Also, when you start and end the Bhagavad Gita, it takes about 2.5 to 3 hours to just recite the verses. So that means it took 3 hours for them to have this conversation. That means both the armies were just standing, and here in the center, Arjuna and Krishna were having a conversation with each other. Right in the middle, is it possible? So there is this, you dismiss the validity of Bhagavad Gita, saying it can't be, or you dilute it to that an extent. The answer to this that the acharyas gave the normal thing, actually, and it's a very commonsensical thing. Even today, if you see, we stand on their borders, respective borders, for months and years together. LOC, LAC, you have armies on each side standing, waiting for the order, and that wait can be never come also. So normally for a war to start, it is postponed till the last second. If it can be postponed, it is going to be postponed. So when the Rath must have come, the chariot must have come in the beginning, the signals have yet not come to say the war is starting. So yes, it is possible. It is possible. Even today you see that it is possible. The second doubt that comes, or criticism that comes, is this is just a story. Mahabharata is a story. It never happened. It is only Vyasa's imagination. It's his compilation. It's very engaging. It's very philosophical, yes. But Krishna there is also just another character like all other characters. Like you have in a play. You have all characters, and one of the characters is Krishna. So Krishna is not Bhagavan Krishna, but he is just another character. This is also dismissed by the acharyas. In fact, Vyasa himself dismisses it in the Mahabharata in the earlier portions, where there is one of the praman called Sambhav Praman. Sambhav means possible. It is possible. And there is a portion that comes in the Mahabharata where Avatara is spoken of. Vedas, we have said that it is one of the pramans of avatar. Avatar is a concept popular, well established in Hinduism. Avatar, Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. Sambhavata, possibility of it being there before the Gita has started, earlier part of Mahabharata itself, Shastra is a praman for it. ये संभव है, ऐसा लिखा है उसमें. Vyasa himself has written. The counter argument that is given is that those who say it is not possible, if someone says ऐसा हो ही नहीं, it's not possible that Krishna is a Bhagwan who said this, the onus lies on them to prove that it did not happen. For us, what is the proof? It is written in the Shastra. Shastra is a proof. It's written, it happened. If you say it did not happen, then you have to collaborate it with proper reasoning. Since that reasoning hasn't yet come up, therefore, those who believe, accept Vedas as a system of established knowledge, from Vedas have come all these Smriti Granthas, Bhagavad Gita being one of them, Puranas. Therefore, the idea of Bhagwan giving the knowledge itself is acceptable. Third point, some say, and this is very popular because this is what connects us to Bhagavad Gita straight away. And it's very popular, very well established now in society. Some say that all the characters in the Mahabharata are our inner vrittis only. They're all in our own selves, in our own mind. That makes it an allegorical treatise. Mahabharata becomes allegorical, means it is a metaphorical treatise. Means every character there represents an inner vritti in us. Vritti means thought. Simple terms, thought. These are our own thoughts. So we have a Dhritrashtra in us. We have Duryodhana in us. We have all the Kauravas in us. So there are 100 vrittis which are Kauravas. And they are fighting with the 5 vrittis which are Pandavas. The Pandavas are the good vrittis in us. Kauravas are the negative vrittis in us. And therefore, there is always an inner fight between us. The Mahabharata is going within us. And Krishna is also within us as the one who shows the way. This is partly correct. Yes, it does represent the inner vrittis, but this is not the whole truth. As I said, there are 3 Shantis just now. The Adi Daivik, the Adi Bhautik, and the Adi Adhyatmik. Adi Daivik means pertaining to the Devatas, the world of Devatas. Adi Bhautik means the world outside of us, outside the body that I see, the world around me. Bhutas, elements, the elemental world. That elemental world. Adhyatmik means the inner world of oneself. Shastra says, Vedas say, the theory of creation in the Vedas says that when the creation came about, it is Brahman which is manifesting as creation with Maya Upadhi, and creation is not just what we are physically seeing. This outside and this inside is also inclusive of that Adi Daivik Jagat. Jagat means Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik. All 3 together come in Jagat. Now if you take this meaning, then what would Mahabharata mean? That it is not just a context of fight within oneself. That you see this fight happening outside in the world, and therefore you also see it in the Asuras, and the Suras are all fighting. Outside you have the bad elements and the good elements fighting. Inside you have your own impulses and your own good sense fighting. So it makes it more comprehensive. So Mahabharata entirely and in specific Bhagavad Gita here, what is it really addressing? It is addressing, it is first depicting, it is showing by first narrating what had happened to the Kuru clan. It is the same that happens in all other worlds. In every Jagat, wherever there is a Jagat, Mahabharata is there. It is not time bound. I hope this is fairly clear. We'll take up the questions a little while afterwards. I'll finish this topic. The next one is, this is also very common. Bhagavad Gita. Who wants to study? What is its relevance in the modern context? 5,000 years ago. That also now there are a lot of debates on how old is Mahabharata, how old are all our Shastras. Even if you say it's 5,000 years old, that makes it even more irrelevant, because the fact is, even what we studied as when we were younger, even that knowledge has become irrelevant today. The society changes so fast that what I did 20 years ago, I mean, you can't imagine all of us having a class 5 years ago like this online. And not possible. Within a few years, the world changes. What are we talking about? What had happened? If you say it had happened 5,000 years ago, what is its relevant today? Our simple question is, 5,000 years ago, what had happened? Who were the people whose story is narrated? Humans. The Pandavas are humans, Kauravas are humans. They may dress differently, they may eat differently, their habits may be different, but who are they? Humans. Every human, what is going to be the inner constitution of a human being, the inner structure, the inner thought process in a human being? Is any human devoid of food and hunger, doesn't want food and is not hungry? Is any human being not subject to envy, jealousy, anger, hatred? Is any human being separate from impulses that 5,000 years ago that human being must have exhibited? If hatred was there then, is hatred not there now? If anger was there then, is anger not there now? Thus, it is not relevant to say, in fact, it is incorrect to say that Shastra was time-based at 5,000 years ago, because it was addressing a human ignorant mind then, and the same thing happens now. As long as the human being is there, as long as it is there, a human being is there, so long the context is there. This context will get unfolded as you learn the Bhagavad Gita and more about all this. But remember, this is important to remember. In your own minds, if we do not understand this, then our attention to the knowledge, it's like a sharp beam. The attention gets diverted. It's not as sharp as it should be to receive the knowledge. It is relevant. And because it is relevant, it will be applicable to me also. This is where some of them try to dismiss Bhagavad Gita, some of them try to dismiss the Shastra completely. But for those who actually accept, okay, Shastra, Gita is a Shastra. Amongst this means it is spoken words of Krishna, because when you see the verses, it will be Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. It is not Sri Krishna Uvacha, Arjuna Uvacha, but Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So even among those who are accepting that Gita is okay, fine, it is a spoken word of Bhagavan, there are different interpretations of the very content of these 700 verses of the Gita. The very content has got different interpretations. Vishay alag hai. People accept Krishna ne kaha hai, but the understanding of kya kaha hai, that topic completely changes. The common, and these people have written bhashyams also. Bhashyam is a very typical style of commentary. At some point, maybe we will explain the different ways in which the commentaries are written. Bhashyam is a very technical way of writing a commentary where the doubts are taken from different schools of thoughts also, and they are also dismissed in the light to establish the point of view of the one who writes the bhashyam and the sampradaya he represents. So what are the common other bhashyams you would have? We have all heard this. Ramanujacharya is another great acharya, and he propounds Vishishtadvaita. So same Gita has a commentary, bhashyam, from the standpoint of Vishishtadvaita. Vallabhacharya, Shuddhadvaita. It's very famous in certain parts of India even now. It's called Pushti Marg. Vaishnavites. So Shuddha Advaita, they would say, where it's a different way of looking at it. Then Nimbarkacharya, he has Dvaita Advaita view of Bhagavad Gita. Abhinavagupta Acharya, Shaiva Advaita. Even though Shaiva word is not there in the entire Bhagavad Gita, Abhinavagupta Acharya's Bhashyam is also very terse, very meaningful, and he says all this is Shiva. Krishna, whatever he's saying is coming from Shiva himself. So, Shiva Advaita. Then we have Madhavacharya. Madhavacharya is a Dvaita school, and here the main emphasis is on I am always a Brit. Bhagwan is always my master, and I am always in seva of Bhagwan. All of them have written commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Moreover, this is that time. In the last few decades, there are modern commentators. There is Tilak, whose commentary is very famous. In his commentary, his main message is Gita reveals the path of karma. There is Prabhupada Acharya, the ISKCON, they say Gita shows the path of bhakti. There is Ram Suktas ji, Sadhak Sanjeevani. His entire commentary concludes almost to say Gyan and Karma are two independent paths. Aurobindo has a commentary on Gita, and this is something beyond mind. We have Acharya Vinoba Bhave, we have Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, we have Rajgopalacharya, we have so many more modern commentaries. All of them seem to be saying something about the same 700 verses. They are picking up something out of it. According to Calvert and Hemraj, in 1983, this was a study concluded in 1983, and they published a very small booklet on it. Till 1983, there were about 1891 translations of Bhagavad Gita in 75 languages, till 83. And now there are many added further. The very first English translation, this is important to understand also in a way now. Bhagavad Gita per se, though it is a part of Mahabharata, being in Sanskrit, and also because the Vedic view held the ashram vyavhar very firmly, I would say, not strictly, firmly. So Brahmacharya Avastha, Grahastha Avastha, Vanaprastha Avastha, Sannyasa Avastha, ashram, all these ashram stages. Gita Astra was revealed to one who really sought it. So it was not a common book. It was not like you could just pick it up and like how Bhagavad Gita is today. For centuries, Bhagavad Gita has remained confined, revealed only to the seeker who sought it from a guru. That means the student would have had a lot of knowledge beforehand and would have had his own vairagya to say what is to be sought in life, knows what is to be sought in life, and was ready to undertake whatever it needs to get that knowledge, to whatever is the final consideration of one's life. What is my life to culminate in? For that, Bhagavad Gita was precious book, is still a precious book, but it was revealed to an adhikari. Who was an adhikari? An adhikari was the one who has, as I just said, vairagya means a certain amount of clarity of thought of what my life purpose should be. Let me put it this way. And it has nothing to do within the span of life. That I'm generalizing it a lot because it's an introductory class. So, Bhagavad Gita was kept known to people who were already having the knowledge or knew Sanskrit, and In certain Indian languages it was there, but it was always studied with a teacher. Bhagavad Gita has never been a self-study book. It still is not. And it's a very wrong idea that people think picking up translations can give us knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. You cannot, because they're all technical terms, which is a way to look at it. It's as good as saying, if I pick up my favorite example, if I pick up Gray's Anatomy, if I pick up the entire medical course 5 year, the books that they study, will that make me a doctor? Even if my teacher is teaching me the same book and I read the same book, does that make me a doctor? It's with every knowledge-based system. It's not just Bhagavad Gita separate. It is just that somehow, how it has got interpolated in the society, we don't know. But people believe that Bhagavad Gita is a book and therefore you can read it like a novel. What happened because of the last, the English, was that when the the Britishers came, and what was that? East India Company. So when the East India Company came, there were certain people there who got very attracted and they learned the Sanskrit and they became scholars in Sanskrit. The first English translation was by Charles Wilkins, and it was published in 1785. But even then, it took 100 years. In 1885, Sir Edwin Arnold's, the famous book, even now, if anybody in the Western world says Bhagavad Gita they have read, it is, starting point has been Sir Arnold's The Song Celestial. He named it like that. Bhagavad Gita. Song Celestial. Bhagavad is celestial, song is Gita. He titled the book like that. And once he made it, it became very popular by 1885, and later on we know through articles and everything that Mahatma Gandhi picked up the song Celestial, and that is how Bhagavad Gita slowly, I would still say slowly, though it is within 200 years, Bhagavad Gita came into the mainstream. English translation. The country was going through a huge transformation of language. English was becoming a popular language. Once the Gita came in English, it started becoming available as if it is a self-help book. Not only that, though it became popular, good point about it, no doubt, but there are so many words in English that are not correct representatives of the Sanskrit original word. So what has happened is, all of us, me the first one, I would call myself the first in the line, depended entirely on English to learn to understand Bhagavad Gita. So when you understand the concepts, what Bhagavad Gita says in English, there will be so many translated words that will confuse the mind because they are not in the sense in which they have been said in the original language, Sanskrit. So, for example, Karam Yoga is unselfish action. Unselfish action is very different from Karam Yoga, as we see ahead. Point that I'm trying to say here is, English translation has definitely brought a huge, as we have just seen, so much availability. But because of so much availability also, there is so much confusion about what really is Bhagavad Gita. How are we to approach it that it should be revealing to us what its actual knowledge is? Each one has their own viewpoints otherwise. So which one of them would be correct? Shankaracharya, as I have been saying, has also written a bhashyam on the Bhagavad Gita. It is in keeping with Advaita Sampradaya. And he includes the Bhagavad Gita bhashyam in Prasthanatrayi. That Prasthanatrayi has got narrowed down as a study course for gaining the Advaita Vedanta Jnanam. Prasthanatrayi means Trayi is 3. Prasthana is 10 principal Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. The 3 together, Brahma Sutra, Vyasa's written. Sutras, they are sutras, about 555 or so sutras, which do the analysis of the entire Upanishadic knowledge and conclude it to say the message of the Shastra is you are Brahman and not this little tiny being that you think you are. But that's an analysis. So Prasthanatrayi is a very important word, Prasthana. That Prasthana word makes the view different from seeing a book as a book. Bhagavad Gita is a book. Yes, definitely it is a book. My old version, supposing it's a book. And I don't know if you can see it. It's a book. Okay? A book approach is different. But what does prasthana mean? Prasthana. Thana means jaga. That which takes you towards a place. Than में establish करती है. Book Bhagavad Gita obviously is not the book जो आपको वहां ले जाएगी. The content of the book, one of them being Bhagavad Gita, that content is going to take you to a sthan. And what is that sthan? All of us, very generally speaking, where do we look forward to at the end of the day the most? What do we look forward to the most?
Home, Dipti ji.
Anji?
Home.
Home. And in home what?
Peace and happiness.
Peace and happiness. Sleep. Because sleep is my ultimate state of peace. Everything is switched off, resigned. That peace is the sthan that everyone seeks. Mark these words carefully. You have to identify the words. What do I seek, really speaking? Am I seeking a raise in my salary? Am I seeking a new house? Am I seeking a money, power, status, partner? What am I seeking? All my seeking ultimately is boiling down to one sthan. What is that sthan? Peace within myself. It is shanti within myself. Oh, sthan means I'm maybe looking at it as happiness outside. You know, I may love to have an ice cream, and when I get an ice cream, I feel very, very happy. I feel the ice cream gave me that joy. But what is that sthan where I'm looking for it? I'm not looking at the ice cream as my sthan of happiness. I'm looking at myself, residing in myself. That sthana means I am seeking happiness, peace. And Shastra shows us clearly it's not a temporary peace that I seek, because every day when I sleep and I get up, I am again a disturbed person. I want peace for good. I want full peace. That complete peace and for good, changeless peace state is moksha. So what does the content of Bhagavad Gita or the Prasthanatrayi Adhyanam? Adhyanam means studying it, grasping it, internalizing the knowledge. What does that study do? Takes you to your own sthan of seeking, which is peace, which is otherwise moksha. So Prasthanatrayi, when Shankara writes the Bhashyam on Bhagavad Gita, in keeping with the Advaita, non-dual, means there is nothing other. There is only Brahman and nothing other. That's the Advaita Sampradaya. Bhagavad Gita gets included in this, though the entire content of the Bhagavad Gita is not just about Brahman. There are a lot of things that are said in the Gita which are also going to be helpful in conducting one's life till the point one has come to that inner establishment of peace that one identifies with. So, Shankara writes the Bhashyam, and we are closely going to study the Bhagavad Gita in the light of the Bhashyam, not sentence by sentence, but there are some very beautiful meanings in the Bhashyam. Simple words, even like there'll be a verse, what is day to the wise is night to the ignorant, what is night to the wise is day to the ignorant, and he defines even day and night very beautifully. So small thing. You will find beautiful portions we will be picking up those portions wherever they are relevant to understand the content of the verse. I'm repeating myself. If anybody's joined late, we are going to attempt. It is all going to be God's will. Ishvara Anugraha, all of our desire, if it holds strong enough for that long, I have no idea. We have started. If the study concludes or not, I do not know. We are starting. We will hold it definitely till the end, trying our best. But those 700 verses, each verse is going to be studied as has been presented in Shankara's Bhashyam. Therefore, that is our approach. Now, Mahabharata, some just general points so that we are through with this, so that we can concentrate on the Gita. You have clarity about all these things. Mahabharata is also called the fifth Veda. Why is it called the fifth Veda? We all know there are 4 Vedas, and Vedas are full of knowledge of something that a human being will have, his senses cannot bring about easily. Mahabharata is called the fifth Veda because the content of Mahabharata is equivalent to what is in the Vedas. Has about 1 lakh verses, 100,000 verses, somewhere it's even said to 200,000, but popular 100,000 verses, and it is in 18 parvas. Parvas means divisions, different divisions. Bhagavad Gita is almost like a central pendant of the garland of Mahabharata. Vyasa, as I said, is the author of Mahabharata, and he himself calls Mahabharata as an itihasa. Itihasa. Iti means thus, aisa hua tha. Thus. Has means aisa hua tha. Thus it happened like this. So it's as if it's a narration of what had happened, as if it's an historical anecdote. Thus it has happened. So Mahabharata is entirely a story of the Kuru clan. Amongst all the parvas, there is a Bhishma Parva, where the whole section is on Bhishma. Their Gita is somewhere between 25 to 42. The section is, some say it is 23 to 40. Vyasa tells the story. Vyasa has written Mahabharata. He tells the story of the Kuru clan to his disciple, Vaishampayana. Vaishampayana tells the same story of Mahabharata to the Kuru king, Janmejaya. He was a king of Hastinapur, and he was Parikshit's son. I think we can all know this. So Parikshit's son was Janmejaya. Vaishampayana tells the story of his great-great-grandfather's lineage to Janmejaya. Later on, in Mahabharata itself it is, Ugrashavasa narrates this to rishis who had assembled in Naimisharanya to perform a 12-year Ashwamedha Yajna. And in between, when there were gaps, they take rest in between, so they would have satsangs in between. And in one of those times, the rishis have asked Ugrashavasa is going from one place to another place, and they ask him if he knows the story of the Mahabharata. So he's telling them. So what happens when you see the Mahabharata is you have this, like you have Bhagwan Uvacha, you have Vaishampayana Uvacha. So there is a story in a story in a story. It goes like that. Actual Bhagavad Gita is starting on the 10th day of the war. Once the war has started, on the 10th day, the Bhishma Parva is saying, when Bhishma lay on the bed of the arrows, Sanjay reports it to Dhritrashtra. And this is very beautiful. I'm going to share another screen now. This is very beautifully seen in the Mahabharata itself. First, I will try and show you the parvas so that you have a vision of okay. So Khanda is the book. There are different sections. Somewhere you have 6 and somewhere you have more. So Adi Parva, Sabha Parva. Then you have, can you see the second? Vana Parva and Virat Parva. Can you see it? Somebody will have to tell me. I can't see your faces.
No, we can only see.
Okay, so I have to every time stop sharing and reshare. Okay. Okay, I have to go here every time and I have to do this. Fine. Okay, now I think you can see Vanapar Viratpar. This is the second book. Yeah?
Yes.
Now the third book in this particular Gita Press Hindi translation is what I could see online. You will find in the third book I have so many tabs opened of the third book so that I didn't have to scroll up and down, that now I do not know which one of them is what. Yeah. Okay, so this is the third, Udyog Parva and Bhishma Parva. Now in this Udyog Parva is just before the Bhishma Parva. You will see some very interesting things that come up. This we know very well. Before the Mahabharata started, can you see? Did I share it?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
see.
please.
So when Duryodhana and Arjun both go to Krishna, who's sleeping, and Duryodhana goes to the head and Arjun goes to the feet, and Krishna Vacha. He's telling Dhritrashtra, Bhavan vikataha purvam atra me nasti sanshayah. Drishtah tu prathamam rajan maya partho dhananjaya. He's saying, of course, without any doubt, I see you must have come first, but I have seen Arjuna first. And then the whole conversation goes, who wants what? Then at the end, once Duryodhana is left, Gate Duryodhane. The blue ones are all Krishna's words. Okay, the blue highlights is Krishna's words. The yellow highlights are the general building words. There is green and one more I've forgotten. Let's see what it goes. Okay. Gate Duryodhane Krishnaha Kiritinam Atha Abravit. Once Duryodhan leaves, Krishna is asking, he has asked Arjun, Ayudhyamanaha. I am going to be not fighting in the war. Ayudhyamanaha, I have declared myself that I will not fight in the war. Kam buddhim. He says, with what understanding? क्या सोचकर? काम बुद्धिम. ऐसा क्या सोचा तुमने? asthaya aham vrittah tvaya. That I'm not going to be fighting. But yet, tvaya, by you, what was it? Your soch, your thinking. What was your thinking that you've chosen me who's not going to fight? And now I'm slowly building the context of seeing why Bhagavad Gita is going to get relevant in our lives. Arjuna Uvacha. Why am I picking up the book itself? So that you know I am not saying anything on my own. This is the way it is written there already. Arjuna gives the answer. He says, Bhavan samarthastan sarvan nihantum na atra sanshayah. Samarthah tan. Bhavan, you are capable of. You are very capable. Even without picking up any shastram, even picking up without any arms. Na atra samshaya. I have no doubt that you don't need arms. You don't need weapons. By yourself, अकेले ही, आप अकेले ही उन सबको नष्ट करने में समर्थ हैं. इसमें तनिक भी संशय नहीं है. निहंतुम अहम अपि एकः समर्थः पुरुषर्षभ. This आपकी कृपा से is written in brackets. He says, निहंतुम, even me, Arjuna saying, मैं भी अकेला, इन सब शत्रुओं को, all of them, I can destroy them. संहार करने में समर्थ हूं. Krishna, you without picking up anything can destroy them all. No, you have capability. I also am capable by myself. Then he says, Bhavantu kirtim malloke, kirtimat loke. Bhavantu, but you are kirtimat in this world. You have yashasvi, you have kirti here in the world. Tad yashaha tvam gamishyati. It follows you. The yash follows you. Will come. मैं भी इच्छा रखता हूं. यशसाम च अहम अपि अर्थी. मैं भी इच्छा रखता हूं. अर्थी. I am also the desirer of yash. तस्मादसि मया वृत्तः. इसलिए मैंने, I have chosen you. In other words, संसार में आप यशस्वी हैं. Wherever you will be, yash will follow you. I am a desirer of yash. Therefore, I am choosing you. This is his simple logic first. Then he says, actual motivation, actual intention. Sarthyam tu tvaya karyam iti me manasam sada. Sarthyam tu tvaya, by you. Indeed, tu sarthyam, sarthi banna. Sarthi ka karyam, becoming a charioteer. Manasam sada was always, has been in my mind for very long. Therefore, he says, in Hindi as you see the translation, मेरे मन में बहुत दिनों से यह अभिलाषा थी कि आपको अपना सारथी बनाओ. आपने जीवन रथ की चिर रात्रेपि सतम, चिर रात्र अपि, चिर रात्रेप्सितम कामम तत् भवान कर्तुम अर्हति. चिर रात, this जीवन रथ की बागडोर आपके हाथ में सौंप दूं. मेरी इस चिरकालिक अभिलाषा को आप पूर्ण करें. चिरकालिक means for very long I have been holding this in my mind. Now what do you see in this? First, physical charioteer is what he is trying to say. Krishna says, I will be Nihatta. So Arjun says, I have for very long wanted you to be my charioteer. But which charioteer? Jeevan Rath ki. My life, lead my life. I want you to direct my life. I want you to lead my life. This desire has been in me for very long. And then next one. Is this so far? No, clear, no? Now the last one. Now, now then there is a whole lot of verses in between. The war is setting. There's a lot of description of the armies and doubts and conversations. 10th day, I don't know where, somewhere here, but I'm picking up from here now. 10th day, when Bhishma falls, that's the time we know Sanjay goes back to Dhritrashtra and tells him. When he's saying, there is another verse somewhere, maybe when I look at it, I'll come back to it. Here he starts by saying, look at the qualities he mentions of Bhishma. I'm bringing this verse only as an exception, that when people say, Mahabharata padh ke kya hoga? Even the description of the character is what directs the human being to build his character. So what is it? Mahendra sadrishaha shaurye, dhairye cha himavan iva. जो शौर्य में देवराज इंद्र के समान है, शौर्य में इंद्र के समान, स्थिरता में हिमालय के समान, स्थिरता में हिमालय के समान. This is Bhishma's character. But what does it tell us? हिमालय के समान स्थिर. समुद्र एव गंभीर्ये. He is गंभीरता में समुद्र के समान. Depth in his character. And सहिष्णुत्वे धरा समान समः. सहनशीलता में धरा पृथ्वी के समान. Even if you forget the Indra ke saman shaurya, that is alaukik in a way. Sthirta, gambhirta, sahanshilta. Automatically the qualities have got conveyed. So when you study these stories, this Mahabharata and Ramayana, this is the way children, when they were given these stories, all these characters would be coming in the cognition, so that there is a goal for a jiva to aspire for. Gambhirta samudra ke saman, sahanshilta dhara ke saman, prithvi ke saman. Then he says, now when he's fallen, I will not repeat the verses if I do, but the joy is in the verses itself. He says, who was like a simha, manushya mein simha. बाण ही जिसकी दाढ़ी है, means he is now aged. धनुष जिनका फैला हुआ मुख है, means his mouth is always a wide mouth. तलवार ही जिनकी जिह्वा है, his tongue is like a what is it, तलवार in English, like a sword. और इसलिए जिनके पास पहुंचना किसी के लिए भी अत्यंत कठिन था. He's saying, such a शूरवीर, वे ही आपके पिता, Sanjay is telling Dhritrashtra, आपके पिता भीष्म आज पांचाल राजकुमार शिखंडी के द्वारा मार गिराए गए. पांचाल्येन निपातितः. पिता ते अद्य. Like your father, he's your father. I'm back. Am I back? I'm back. Oh, I don't know where I was lost. What was the last that we were talking about?
The
शिखंडी के
qualities
द्वारा
of
में मार गिराए गए.
Can you repeat that again, Akanksha?
आपके पिता भीष्म आज पांचाल राज शिखंडी के द्वारा मार गिराए गए. You were
Okay.
quoting that. उसके पहले
Right.
आपने qualities discuss करी थी.
So the main points probably gone.
You were making the point that when these stories were told to children, it happened a very high ideal for them.
Right. Okay. So now, yeah, so it wasn't very long. Okay. You can see now.
हाँ जी.
So now he's talking about how Bhishma, who with all his qualities and characteristics, has now fallen, and as a result of which, the fear that used to come in the enemy camp is now seen in his own camp. Here he's saying in the 11th verse, 10 दिनों तक आपकी सेना का संरक्षण करके अत्यंत दुष्कर पराक्रम, means for 10 days Bhishma has been saving leading your army, and now he has fallen. But just as the whole Kaurava army dissipates itself, now starts slowly the Gita coming into context. Dhritrashtra uvacha. He can't believe it that Bhishma has fallen. He's not able to come to terms with it. He was shocked because the whole success of the war, in the previous verses somewhere he says, rests on Bhishma. And though Duryodhana had also planned the whole army's view her in such a way that Bhishma should be protected. Now Dhritrashtra says, I'll quickly start reading these. संजय कुरुकुल के श्रेष्ठतम पुरुष मेरे पितृतुल्य भीष्म शिखंडी के हाथ से कैसे मारे गए? How? वे तो इंद्र के समान पराक्रमी थे, वे रथ से कैसे गिरे? How did he fall? कथम रथात् स न्यपतत् पितामेव पापम. He says, how did he fall? Then he continues, संजय जिन्होंने अपने पिता के संतोष के लिए आजीवन ब्रह्मचार्य का पालन किया और जो देवताओं के समान बलवान थे, उन्हीं भीष्म से रहित होकर आज हमारे सैनिकों की कैसी अवस्था हुई, यह बताओ. So where is the concern in Dhritarashtra? Can anybody pick up this point on this verse?
He's saying what is the state of the army?
Bhishma's fallen. He's now Surya ast ho raha hai unka. His life is ending. He had an Ichha Mrityu. He's going to end. But what is Dhritarashtra's attention? What happened to the army? Tell me that. Then he says about Bhishma, Mahagyani, Mahapragnya, Mahadhanurdhari, Mahabali, धैर्यशील नरश्रेष्ठ भीष्म जी को मारे जाने पर तुम्हारे मन की कैसी अवस्था हुई? संजय, तुम कहते हो अकंप्य वीर पुरुष सिंह कुरुकुल शिरोमणि भीष्म जी मारे गए. इसे सुनकर मेरे हृदय में बड़ी पीड़ा हो रही है, दुख हो रहा है. करुणाम ऋषभम. My heart has got overwhelmed, but with what concern? That's to be noted. He says, जैसे सूर्य अंधकार को नष्ट कर देता है, उसी प्रकार शत्रु सुदन भीष्म शत्रु सेना का नाश करते हैं. जिनका तेज सहस्त्र किरणों वाला सूर्य के समान था, जिन्होंने शत्रुओं को भी भयभीत कर रखा था, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. So he's now glorifying it, but at the end of so many verses, he's going to say, I can't believe this, that such a Bhishma has fallen, and now he brings up, he says to himself, concludes, he says, definitely my heart is made up of loha, that even I don't seem to be so affected listening to the fact that Bhishma is gone. Then again he narrates Vilap. How did he go about? I'm skipping these verses because this is where he concludes in the green what I have highlighted. After all these verses where he goes on glorifying Bhishma and still not coming to terms to the fact that he's gone, and he's very concerned now what has happened to his son Dhritrashtra, Duryodhan ka kya hoga, and etc. Now he says, Dharmat adharmo balavan. Dharmat, धर्म से अधर्मः बलवान है. धर्म से अधर्म बलवान है. संप्राप्त इति मे मतिः. Says, now I have understood this well. यत्र वृद्धं गुरुं हत्वा राज्यं इच्छन्ति पांडवाः. Why? Because Pandavas are so desperate for Rajyam that their own Vritta Gurujan they are ready to kill. But what is the conclusion of Dhritrashtra? Dharam se adharam balwan hai. Has anyone understood the tone in which Dhritarashtra's mind is revealing itself? What is he saying is dharma and what is he saying is adharma?
So he
He
thinks
thinks Pandava side is adharma.
Correct. He says Pandavas are adharma. Dharmat adharmo balavan. Me matihi. Dharam se adharam balwan hai. Now, when will a person say this? What should be the state of mind? जब उसको ये लगने लगे धर्म और अधर्म की परिभाषा, what is dharma and what is adharma, the very definitions of dharma and adharma are seen from personal perspective only. What he is seeing. So he says, आज मुझे निश्चित रूप से ज्ञात हुआ है कि धर्म से अधर्म ही बलवान है, क्योंकि पांडव अपने वृद्ध गुरुजन की हत्या करके राज्य लेना चाहते हैं. Then again he is giving a lot of reasons. सेनापति मारे जाने पर मेरे पुत्र की सेना विधवा स्त्री के समान असहाय ही हो गई. हतवीरा is the one whose husband's gone. Putraha, my whole sena, me sena, my sena, me sena, meri sena has become like Vidva Stri. Then he continues this further asking what is happening, and then now his hatasha, I hope we understand that, his helplessness, his dejection has fallen to such a degree that he's saying, आज जीवित रहने पर भी हम लोगों में क्या सामर्थ्य है? What are we good for? Everything rested on Bhishma. Now what are we good for? जगत के विख्यात धर्मात्मा महापराक्रमी पिता भीष्म को युद्ध में मरवा कर हम उसी प्रकार शोक में डूब गए हैं जैसे पार जाने की इच्छा वाले पथिक नाव को अगाध जल में डूबी हुई देखकर दुखी होते हैं. So you see all these similes that keep coming together. The state of mind is so descriptive. Now he says, मैं समझता हूं कि भीष्म जी के मारे जाने पर मेरे बेटे दुख के कारण अत्यंत शोक मग्न हो गए होंगे। मेरे बेटे दुख के कारण संजय, मेरा हृदय निश्चय ही लोहे का बना हुआ है, जो पुरुष सिंह भीष्म को मारा गया सुनकर भी विदीर्ण नहीं हो रहा। मीन्स इट इज नॉट गेटिंग, he's getting so shock magna about his son's mental state of what must be happening to them, that Bhishma's going away is becoming secondary in his mind. His attention is, what problem is your mind picking up? This is it, how you see it. In your mind, what is it that you make an issue? What becomes primary? चित्त को क्या, जीवन का कौन सा इशू दिखता है? That Dhritrashtra is representing. Then he says, this is very beautiful. न च अस्त्रेण न च शौर्येण तपसा मेधया न च न धृत्या न पुनः त्यागान मृत्योः कश्चित् विमुच्यते। जान पड़ता है कि अस्त्र से, शौर्य से, तपस्या से, बुद्धि से, धैर्य से तथा त्याग के द्वारा भी, and all these were representing who?
Bhishma.
Bhishma. He was good enough. Means all these things, कोई मृत्यु से छूट नहीं सकता. Nobody can escape death. Even the doctor can't. Who is treating you for? Even he is not there. Then he says, then he's now, even now he says, मुझे शांतनु नंदन भीष्म से अपने पक्ष के परित्राण की बड़ी आशा थी. इस समय अपने पुत्र के शोक से संतप्त होकर मैं महान दुख से चिंतित हो उठा हूं. संजय, जब मैं अपनी बुद्धि से विचार करके देखता हूं तो अपने अथवा शत्रु पक्ष के राजाओं में से किसी का भी जीवन इस युद्ध में शेष रहता नहीं दिखाई देता है. ऋषियों ने क्षत्रियों का यह धर्म अत्यंत कठोर निश्चित किया है, जिसमें रहते हुए पांडव शांतनु नंदन भीष्म को मारकर राज्य लेना चाहते हैं. दिस इज द क्रक्स समवेयर. हु इज सीइंग व्हाट? एंड दिस dialogue is going to continue. Therefore, it's important to know this background. Says then at the another verse, he says, अथवा हम भी तो उन महारथी भीष्म को मरवाकर ही राज्य लेना चाहते हैं. Now his mind is going through all kinds of thoughts, like any jiva, isn't it? A human being today also has the same similar thoughts. You know, what is right, what is wrong, what is dharma, what am I to do, what am I not to do, what is righteous, what is wrong, why am I being wronged, why is that person doing this to me? All this that becomes the topic in the mind of an individual. Dhritrashtra is representing a thinking pattern. Representing means it is the gunas with which he's made. That's the thoughts that come out. And then he says, हम भी तो वही कर रहे हैं. तो क्षत्रिय धर्म में स्थित हुए मेरे बच्चे कुंती कुमारों का कोई अपराध नहीं है. Now here he is trying to accommodate and justify. कुंती कुमार के बच्चे भी मेरे ही हैं, उनका कोई अपराध नहीं है. Where is the अपराध now? The अपराध has fallen into क्षत्रिय धर्म. संजय, दुस्तर आपत्ति के समय श्रेष्ठ पुरुष को यही करना चाहिए जो भीष्म जी ने किया है, कि वह शक्ति के अनुसार अधिक से अधिक पराक्रम करे. यह गुण भीष्म जी वे पूर्ण रूप से प्रतिष्ठित था. Then he says now, संजय, शत्रुओं ने मेरे आदरणीय पिता भीष्म का किस प्रकार वध किया. दुर्योधन, कर्ण, दुशासन तथा सुबल पुत्र जुआरी शकुनी ने भीष्म जी के मारे जाने पर क्या क्या बातें कही. This is going to be the topic further. And I will skip a few of these. They are important, but I will skip it for the sake of bringing us to the point of Gita. कौरवों और पांडवों की सेनाओं का यह युद्ध जिस समय, जिस क्रम से और जिस रूप में हुआ था, वह सब कहो. Now at that point he has asked Sanjay to reveal what had happened in the past, and Sanjaya starts here. Panchadasho means 25th. संजय का युद्ध के वृतांत का वर्णन आरंभ करना, दुर्योधन का दुशासन को भीष्म की रक्षा के लिए समुचित व्यवस्था करने का आदेश. संजय says now here, महाराज आपने जो ये बारंबार अनेक प्रश्न किए हैं ये सर्वथा उचित और आपके योग्य ही हैं, परंतु ये सारा दोष. Sanjay was a wise counselor to Dhritrashtra, and as a wise counselor he's telling Dhritrashtra, this entire dosham imam, आपके दुर्योधन के ही माथे पर नहीं मारना चाहिए. Do not put it on him, because it is your asakti, your own desires that you wanted fulfilled. They also have a part to play in this, what has become the Mahabharata today. Sanjay saying, and then this green verse again, जो मनुष्य अपने दुष्कर्मों के कारण अशुभ फल भोग रहा हो, उसे उस पाप की आशंका दूसरे पर नहीं करनी चाहिए. I'll repeat this verse because it's important. See, these are the principles you pick up from Mahabharata. That when you're going through a tough phase of life, and society will say, paap, this, or forget about all this. The fact is, if you are going through some tough stage of life, do not put the fault on someone else. Yah atmanaha dushcharitat ashubham prapnuyat naraha ena sa tena na anyam sa upa-ashankitam arhati. Do not put the fault on another. Then he says, Maharaj, जो पुरुष समाज में सर्वथा निंदनीय आचरण करता है, वह निंदित कर्म करने के कारण सब लोगों के लिए मार डालने योग्य है. Whoever is doing what is not to be done, उसका आचरण निंदनीय है. निंदनीय means that you can look down upon. Because of that karma that they do, nandaniya karma, everyone should bring the person down. Pandav, आप लोगों के द्वारा, now he's justifying, he's trying to show why the Mahabharata has started. आप लोगों के द्वारा अपने प्रति किए गए अपमान एवं कटक, and all this we know. How the Pandavas had to face everything. So then he says, further, and that is a long way further, all this is a narration. Then he says, I will not try and reshare, I'm just going down, you'll have to just put up with me scrolling, because he's now just narrating the whole army, because he does एक एक चीज बताओ. He says, आपकी सेना में 1 लाख से अधिक हाथी थे, एक एक हाथी के साथ 100 रथ थे, और एक एक रथ के साथ 100 घोड़े थे. That is how vishal this army was of Kauravas. प्रत्येक अश्व के पीछे 10 धनुर्धर और प्रत्येक धनुर्धर के साथ 100 पैदल सैनिक नियुक्त किए गए थे, जो ढाल तलवार लिए रहते थे. भरत नंदन, इस प्रकार भीष्म जी ने आपकी सेनाओं का व्यूह रचा था. How Bhishma had the first day when he had started. Then he says now, this was entirely Dhritrashtra. Now just before the war starts, who is actually the central figure in our Bhagavad Gita? Arjuna and Krishna. Before the war starts, what is Arjuna's mind? In this paragraph, in this section, this gets revealed. Seeing this vyuha, if you go through those verses that I have skipped, it's a beautiful description of a huge army. Yudhisthira, when he sees that army of the Kauravas, suddenly gets a doubt. he goes to Vishad. कौरव सेना को देखकर युधिष्ठिर का विषाद करना. And Arjun is the one who pulls him up. This is just before the war has started. So Sanjay is narrating this to Dhritrashtra. When Yudhishthir saw this Kaurav सेना, राजन युद्ध के लिए उद्यत हुई दुर्योधन की विशाल सेना को देखकर कुंती पुत्र राजा युधिष्ठिर के मन में विषाद छा गया. And who was Yudhishthir? धर्मराज. उनके मन में भी विषाद आ गया. And what is धर्मराज now saying? भीष्म ने जिस व्यू की रचना की थी उसका भेदन करना असंभव था. उसे अक्षोभ्य सा देखकर पांडुनंदन युधिष्ठिर की अंग कांति फीकी पड़ गई. Means his face lost color, his body lost color. Suddenly, what is that English term you use? You lose color. फीका पड़ जाना. Sorry?
Flush.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, he became faint.
He became faint. Means there's a particular usage for it. So, but you've understood. Yudhishthir ki अंग कांति फीकी पड़ गई. Means suddenly became helpless. His body language changed completely. और वे अर्जुन से इस प्रकार बोले. He's telling Arjuna, war has still not started. Remember, we still can avoid the war as far as the Pandavas are concerned. महाबाहु धनंजय, जिनके प्रधान योद्धा पितामह भीष्म हैं, उन धृतराष्ट्र पुत्रों के साथ हम समर भूमि में, समर भूमि is कुरुक्षेत्र, पेल, that's right, पेल. पेल is the right word. Correct. समर भूमि में कैसे युद्ध कर सकते हैं? Who's saying? Yudhishthir is saying. To whom? Mahabahu Dhananjaya. How can we fight this war that Bhishma is leading? महातेजस्वी शत्रुसूदन भीष्म ने शास्त्रीय विधि के अनुसार, even the war had rules, and शास्त्रीय विधि के अनुसार यह अक्षोभ्य एवं अभेद्य व्यू रचा है. Means the science is there behind what शास्त्रीय vidya is there behind the formation of the army that Bhishma has laid. And it seems abhedya, non-penetrable. You cannot penetrate this. So he says, Shatru Nashan Arjun, you are the one who destroys Shatrus. हम लोग अपनी सेनाओं के साथ प्राण संकट की स्थिति में पहुंच गए हैं. What is Yudhishthira's mind saying? That we are actually the ones who are going to be killed. इस महान व्यू से हमारा उद्धार कैसे होगा? How are we going to succeed in this war? राजन, तब शत्रुओं का नाश करने वाले अर्जुन ने आपकी सेना को देखकर विषादग्रस्त युधिष्ठिर से हुए कुंती पुत्र युधिष्ठिर को संबोधित करके कहा. And this is Arjuna's words to विषादग्रस्त युधिष्ठिर. प्रजानाथ, किंग, अधिक बुद्धिमान, उत्तम गुणों से युक्त तथा बहुसंख्यक शूरवीरों को भी बहुत थोड़े योद्धा जिस प्रकार जीत लेते हैं उसे बताता हूं. That means even if there's a huge army, if you have a lesser army, how to win this, I'll tell you. And why will I tell you this? Because he says this is not what I know, but this knowledge, Rajan, आप दोष दृष्टि से रहित हैं. आपको वह युक्ति बताता हूं. Means you can't see any flaw. You don't see faults. पांडुनंदन उसे केवल देवर्षि नारद, भीष्म तथा द्रोणाचार्य जानते हैं. Means that knowledge behind Shastriya Vidya of how to attack a larger army when you have a lesser army, that knowledge only these three have, and that I will tell you. कहते हैं, he says, पूर्व काल में देवासुर संग्राम हो रहा था. उस समय इसी विषय को लेकर पितामह ब्रह्मा ने इंद्र आदि देवताओं को इस प्रकार कहा था. So he is giving the method. Then he says, देवताओं अधर्म त्यक्त्वा अधर्मम च लोभम च मोहम च उद्यमम च उद्यमम आस्थिताः, देवताओं अधर्म, लोभ और मोह त्याग कर उद्यम का सहारा, उद्यम मीन्स एंथुजियाज्म, उद्यम इनिशिएटिव, एंथुजियाज्म, अपने आप को उठाना, सहारा ले, अहंकार शून्य होकर युद्ध करो। युध्यत्वम अनहंकार यतः धर्मः ततः जयः। What is the success? Formula for success? Adharm, lobh, moh, give it up. Udyamam, bring your initiative, bring your enthusiasm, bring your productivity in that sense. Udyamam is a lot of words together, really speaking. Ahankar shunya, remove your ahankar. Engage in the war, which in our world would mean engage in your action. जहां धर्म है उसी पक्ष की विजय होती है। यतो धर्मः ततो जयः। Very famous this is. यतो धर्मः ततो जयः। Vijay is not on the size of the army. Vijay is determined by on whose side dharma is. That determines who will win, not the qualifications of the army, not how vast and how superior and how shaurya and all this, like Bhishma, everybody represented. They were great compared to the Pandavas. But this is the formula, he says. एवं राजन इसी नियम के अनुसार आप भी यह निश्चित रूप से जान ले कि युद्ध में हमारी विजय अवश्यम भावी है। Who's telling this? Anybody?
Arjuna saying this. Arjuna saying this to Yudhisthira.
Absolutely. He is saying हमारी विजय अवश्य भावी है। जैसा कि नारद जी ने कहा है, जहां कृष्ण है वहीं विजय है। And what is Krishna? धर्म की Krishna is always on the side of dharma. So जहां कृष्ण है वहीं विजय है। Then he says, विजय तो श्री कृष्ण का एक गुण है। गुण भूतो जयः कृष्णे, in Krishna. Jaya is one of the guna. It's a part of him. अतः वह उनके पीछे पीछे चलती है। पृष्ठतः अभ्येति माधवम, अभि इति, it goes behind. तद यथा विजयश्चास्य, विजयः चास्य, जैसे विजय गुण है उसी प्रकार सन्नति च अपरः गुणः, उसी प्रकार विनय भी उनका द्वितीय गुण है। What is विनय? Humility. So Vijay means wherever there is humility. What was Duryodhan showing?
Arrogance.
Whoever has dharma by their side has humility. That's the character that you identify. And whoever has dharma has vijay. So Vinay, humility, brings vijay, because Vinay and dharma will come together. Then he says, Ananta Teja Govindaha. Bhagwan Govind ka tej anant hai. Now he's glorifying Krishna. वे शत्रुओं के समुदाय में भी कभी व्यथित नहीं होते, क्योंकि वे सनातन पुरुष परमात्मा हैं। अतः जहां श्री कृष्ण है वहीं विजय है। यतः कृष्णः ततो जयः। Why am I bringing these verses up is because now you slowly start seeing in the first chapter what happens to Arjuna and why the occasion of the Gita rises in the first place. At this point, Arjuna is very clear, and he is the one who is emotionally supporting Yudhisthira. He is the one who is uplifting Yudhisthira. by bringing the knowledge of the eternal laws. Dharma brings success, is an eternal law. The one who follows dharma has humility. Humility is a sign of indicative of the person being dharmic, in this, having a good character, if you generalize it to say. Arrogance would mean he's doing adharmic karma, engaging in adharma. So he says here, yataha krishnaha tato jaya. Arjun has no doubt in his mind. He's got full capability in his own self. He says, remember the verse, he says, I alone am capable of, oh my God, it's 7:20. I thought it was 6:40. Okay, let me just finish this. We'll continue tomorrow. Sorry. Okay. So, he says, wherever there is Krishna, there is Vijay. Then he says, ये कृष्ण कहीं भी प्रतिहित या अवरुद्ध ना होने वाले ईश्वर हैं. इनका बाण अमोघ है. यही पूर्व काल में श्री हरि रूप में प्रकट हो वज्र गर्जन का समान गंभीर वाणी में देवताओं और असुरों से बोले, तुम लोगों में से किसकी विजय हो. This is another Puranic tale that he is referring to. And at that time, उस समय जिन लोगों ने उनका आश्रय लेकर पूछा, कृष्ण हमारी जीत कैसे होगी, उन्हीं की जीत हुई. So, he is establishing the studentship of Arjuna that he is going to show here. जिस समय ने, whoever at that time took recourse in Krishna and said, how are we going to win? Those are the ones who won. इस प्रकार श्री कृष्ण की कृपा से ही इंद्र आदि देवताओं ने त्रिलोक में राज्य की प्राप्ति की. अतः भारत, now he is concluding, मैं आपके लिए किसी प्रकार की व्यथा या चिंता होने का कारण नहीं देखता, क्योंकि देवेश्वर तथा विश्वंभर भगवान श्री कृष्ण आपके लिए विजय की आशा करते हैं. अस्यते, he says, विश्वभुक त्रिदेवेश्वर जयम आशास्ते. So, this concludes the portion where Yudhisthira has been, and then there is a discussion that goes on. Then Yudhisthira now comes back with his vigor, udyamam, and starts to plan the war again. Tato Yudhisthira Raja Swam Senam Samanodayat. He says, तदंतर राजा युधिष्ठिर भीष्म जी की सेना का सामना करने के लिए अपनी सेना का व्यूह की रचना करते हुए युद्ध करते हैं. And then Vasudeva Uvacha. This is where now how many verses? Hardly any verses before, just one section before, and up to just about, say, how many? 14th verse. At the 15th verse, 15th sentence, you may say, भगवान वासुदेव बोले, धनंजय, ये जो अपनी सेना के मध्य भाग में स्थित हो रोष से तप रहे हैं और सिंह के समान हमारी सेना की ओर देखते हैं, यही कुरुकुल केतु भीष्म हैं, जिन्होंने अब तक 300 अश्वमेध यज्ञों का अनुष्ठान किया है. And this is where I always find it very amusing and very Krishna-like character. Why did he have to trigger Arjuna? Only Krishna would know. Because the Gita had to come out. Now, if he hadn't done this, if Vasudev hadn't brought this inciting statement to Arjuna's perception, what is he saying? He says, look at those people standing there, and that Bhishma Pitama who's done Ashwamedha Yajna 300. जैसे बादल अश्वमाली सूर्य को ढक लेते हैं, उसी प्रकार ये सारी सेनाएं इन महानुभाव भीष्म को आच्छादित किए हुए हैं. नरवीर अर्जुन, तुम पहले इन सेनाओं को मारकर भरत कुलभूषण भीष्म जी के साथ युद्ध की अभिलाषा करो. This is what he says. And then continues. I think we should do this in the tomorrow. We'll continue. this is now going to come to, this is a general point. It's going to now start straight away into the first chapter of the Gita and the state of Arjuna, from this state to this state. And this is where, if the context gets clear, all this effort is, if the context gets clear to us, then we will see how Bhagavad Gita will apply in life. What can happen to Arjuna is what is being spoken of very gradually. Is that okay? If you have any question just now, anybody has any question? Too much of a story? Was anybody too overwhelmed? No, it was very interesting. Anybody was overwhelmed? Because this is just now building up the context. You see, what has happened in Gita is people have too much general knowledge. Heard. You have not seen the material yourself. So when you see it directly yourself, it has an imprint in you, and you can now pick up the context yourself. And now whatever Krishna will be telling Arjuna throughout the Gita, how their dialogue will shape, how Krishna tells something and then Arjuna brings up a question, then Krishna tells something, answers, and then again Arjuna brings us on. That whole context is in this background. And that once you are clear of, life opens up. Because as I said, Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik. It's the same everywhere. And so that knowledge helps you identify dharma, adharma, moksha sadhan, karma, attitudes to karma, lifestyle, even company that you choose. Everything slowly starts to orient. But it will not be a direct, how in today's world, we are used to getting a direct injunction. Do this, don't do this. Speak the truth, don't lie. It's a very easy thing to follow. But Shastra here is not a direct injunction. Shastra gives the choice to every human being to follow or not to follow. It educates. And how educated you get and how you can lead yourself is going to be the whole topic. Okay? So once again, thank you everyone. And I'll just conclude. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. So now the basic point will be slowly 1.5 hours twice a week. Hopefully, I am going to put the recordings on YouTube channel. But yes, please everyone, preferably don't just rely on recordings. Recording will be a standby, and we all know this. It only is helpful when you have attended the class also. And for those who are on the Facebook also, I will be removing this particular video, the direct view, the direct that is telecast now, and I will share the link of the YouTube so that for me it's easy to manage at one place. So I will be doing, and yes, the idea of Bhagavad Gita, there was one slide here that I maybe take it up tomorrow, but I'll leave you with this thought. Think about this. Should you believe in Bhagavad Gita, or should you believe in the knowledge, or should you follow the knowledge? And if there's a difference. Is the question clear? Yeah. Should you believe in what is said and therefore follow it? Or therefore just accept it, rather? Or should you follow it Is everyone clear of the question? Everyone here also? Okay. So
Ji.
we'll start tomorrow, 5:30, and hopefully I will not be extending after 7. Idea is not to.
Thank you, Deepti ji.
Deepti ji,
Auntie,
does follow mean to apply?
sorry?
So believe. So what you're asking between follow and between believe and follow.
Yeah.
So believe, you said whether you believe and take it as given, and follow would be
Follow
means to
means,
question.
sorry, what did you say?
Follow means you're saying whether we should question it
Means
or should we apply it?
follow means, okay, yeah, follow can have many meanings. That's right. Okay, believing versus understanding it.
Okay.
So when I understand it, and then that follow comes with understanding. Believing में भी follow है.
वो
I
blindly
believe,
follow
so I
है
follow.
और वहाँ understanding के साथ follow है.
Correct. Okay. So should I just believe what Krishna has said? Because Krishna has said, भगवान ने कहा है, I cannot move दस से मस. भगवान ईश्वर उवाच, भगवान उवाच. Therefore, let me just follow it, whether I die in the process or whatever may happen. I have to follow it because Krishna said it. Therefore, is that the approach to Bhagavad Gita? Or is the approach going to be of education, educating oneself, understand what is said? When you understand, what will be the outcome?
Will ask you.
Sorry?
You will follow with understanding. You will
To
understand
the
it
extent
more
you
and
will
you will
understand, you will
be
follow.
more
You'll have
convinced.
a longer retention. Longer
To the
retention.
longer retention, and to the extent you will understand, you will follow. And this is the way Gita takes you to Moksha. Because at no point will you feel your understanding has culminated. You will want to know further. And this is how you get into the Upanishads, and then you get into Brahma Vichar, until you have arrived at Atma Vichar. You will go on, it will go on leading you.
But
Faster
Deepti ji,
leads you.
even Shraddha is important, right? I mean, like, that's belief again.
Shraddha is little different from belief.
Yeah, I know. Like the explanation you gave us for Tattva Bodha, like believe,
I have, okay, yeah.
you can get it
So
validated.
Shraddha both will have the ingredients of both. What should be predominant? Let me rephrase the question then. Where should your focus be? What should be predominant in our focus?
Understanding.
With Shraddha, Shraddha will be complementary. There can be people who will only believe it on Shraddha, understanding not happening. They become blind followers. They become fanatics at some point. There is no growth. There will be stagnation. You will give it up at some point because you can't pursue it without understanding. So the approach that gets set is, am I answering already? Bye. Hari Om. It's supposed to be a homework for you to think. Hari Om. Take care, everyone. And thank you, everyone.
Deepti ji, I have a question. Deepti ji.
Anji? Yeah.
If you can also answer this tomorrow, later, whatever, but in the Mahabharata they say Vasudeva Uvacha, and in the Gita they say Shri Bhagwan Uvacha. So why is there that distinction?
We are going to come to it when we come to tomorrow, the word Srimad Bhagavad Gita. That Bhagavat, what does it mean? Okay.
Also in the Prastantraya there is Tattva Bodha. There are
That chart also I'm bringing tomorrow. The whole introduction we will be, so that you get a clear idea where does Bhagavad Gita stand in everything. We did the introductory. There are some people who have not done those. So therefore I'm bringing the whole thing just as a revision. It won't be the same as what we've done there. We've done in a lot of details, but this will be just tomorrow. So this week we are focusing on setting our foot into the first chapter of the Gita. And then when the real Pratipadanam starts, the teaching starts only at the second chapter.
In fact, Deepti ji, I don't know, most people probably don't even know that that Gita starts, that Sanjay is narrating all this after Bhishma has fallen. Most people think कि वो Dhritrashtra ने पूछा
That
कि
is
मेरे
also
बेटों
another
और उन्होंने
point. There's one of
yeah
the points that I've deleted to save time. Some people believe it's a direct
मेरे
telecast.
कान में दर्द हो गई है राजेश
yeah
I'm not used to it
So there is a direct telecast happening,
yeah
but it's on the 10th day that the Bhagavad Gita gets narrated. The Dhritarashtra is hearing it on the 10th day of the war. That's why the whole context is very important. Vilap ho raha hai. Everybody's, and what is, I won't do it anymore today. Bye bye. Hari Om. Thank you so much. Good
okay.
night. Stay safe. Good night, good morning, wherever you are, everyone. Stay safe.
Brilliant. Nice.